Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 25 of Sons of Pitches. It's another European roundup, and what a week of fixtures it was. We were blessed with some brilliant games. I think we had one of the best Champions League double fixtures I've ever seen on Tuesday with Arsenal, Bayern, and Madrid and City. And without talking too much, let's get right into it. We'll start in the Emirates in London, where Arsenal played host to Bayern. A match historically that has favored Bayern, but I think on the night, Arsenal kind of proved themselves. I think over the course of the game, they were the better team, and perhaps some of the Champions League experiences that exist in this team led to Bayern scoring their 2 goals. But what did you guys think of this one?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the case. Bayern looked so much more settled than Arsenal throughout the whole game. I mean, you can definitely say that Arsenal were the better side in terms of how well they played, but they always looked so emotional. Like you could see the emotion on every single player's face all the time. And on the other side, Bayern's players looked so composed and calm. And even when they went down early, when Saka scored, they never looked shaken at all. And I think that's exactly what it was. It was all their experience. I have to ask a lot of questions of David Raya in goal. I don't know where the fuck he's going. I don't know if he was trying to take that ball that was played over the top, but he should have just stayed at home and made himself an option for the back pass, and that giveaway would have never happened, and Bayern Munich would have never scored their first goal. I also think it's really funny that Gnabry has pretty much scored against every single London team now, the former gunner himself. So it was pretty cool to see him do it now against Arsenal as well. But I think Bayern deserved the result actually to get a draw. I don't think it would have been right or fair for them to lose on the night. Arsenal, like I said, definitely played better, but I don't think they played well enough that they deserve to win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think for me it was always going to be tough for Arsenal, but I think given the circumstances where I know Bayern's been pretty crap this year, but they're still Bayern Munich. They're European great. So for them to be able to receive them after getting pummeled the last few times they faced them, I think it was 5-0 the last 2 times, to come through, you could see the fans, the players, everybody was nervous, but they definitely were able to control it a bit, and they put in a good performance and a worthy performance of a Champions League game. So I think getting that out of the way, they'll probably think that they can compose themselves a bit better for the second game, and they've pretty much set themselves wide open for on the return leg. So yeah, I don't think they were fantastic. They definitely weren't up to their best for sure. But they definitely, I don't want to call it a mature performance because it was definitely nervy, but it was a worthy performance of a Champions League game.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I actually felt pretty smart watching this game because we all kind of used the word, or rather both of you have used the word composure. I'm going to use it again in what I'm about to say, but I was watching the game with a friend, somebody who I work with, and about 5 minutes into this game, I said, Arsenal are playing way, way too fast. I thought they were almost too up for it. That was my initial takeaway. And credit to them. I mean, they started strongest, and they cashed in. Saka scored a brilliant goal, a goal that I think if Saka is going to take the next step in his career, it was one that he had to score. I think he absolutely needed a goal in this tie, especially if Arsenal had any chance of beating Bayern and going through. But I think they kind of undid themselves in the first half. Gianluca touched on the little mistake from Gabriel and Raya, and it's tough to point fingers on whether Raya should have stayed and where Gabriel should have played his pass, if he should have tried to split lines or play it back to Raya. But I think the second goal was more telling of the maturity of Arsenal. I think in a Champions League game, I know that it's the biggest stage, but you absolutely cannot allow Leroy Sané to pick up the ball in his own half and run pretty much 60 yards untouched until Saliba absolutely smashes him inside his own box for Kane to convert. I think it was a little poetic, like Gianluca touched on, with Gnabry scoring and Harry Kane, the former Tottenham man, coming back to the Emirates. I think he was always destined to score on this one. But yeah, I couldn't help but notice the composure as well too. Even though Arsenal started so strong, Bayern always looked like they believed they would score. And besides that, I mean, well, besides the football that was played, I think there's a couple moments of controversy that I think we need to talk about. The glaring one that stares everybody in the face is Saka getting cleared out by Neuer is how some people see it. I come from the realm of thinking that I think Saka initiates the contact and it shouldn't have been a penalty. And I thought the referee actually, well, I wanted to say that I thought the referee actually got everything right. But then, you see the potential handball on the goal kick, which we'll get to after. But what did you guys think of the coming together at the end of the game? Should Saka have stayed on his feet, or do you think Neuer has blood on his hands?
I think it's never, ever, ever a penalty, and I think that Saka staying on his feet is exactly what he should have done. I was screaming why he didn't. I think if he stays on his feet, he easily rounds Neuer and scores. And Arsenal
Yeah.
go and win the game. And because he's so like determined to go down. I don't understand why he's looking for it, and it's not the first time Bukayo Saka has done something like that either. I know there's been a lot of clips on Twitter doing the rounds of him doing it in previous games. But
Right.
yeah, I just blows my mind, and I don't think it's ever a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly that. He's looking for it. You can see he kind of sticks his leg outside of his normal running motion so that Neuer clips him. And the funny part is, if he stays up, he probably does naturally get taken out too. So he's either getting taken out or he's going 1v1 with a clear goal and defender coming back. So yeah, I think that was poor decision from him to do that. And like you said, not the first time either. So I was actually surprised to see that not called. So I'm happy for some solid officiating for once.
Nice. Well, you're about to be made unhappy because if you did see the handball, I think Arsenal are pretty guilty. But I know Tuchel was pretty pissed. I listened to his post game presser, and I mean the explanation that he gave to the media from the words of the referee on the field to the Bayern players was, he didn't call it because it was a childish foul, and he didn't want to call a childish foul on a Champions League quarterfinal stage. And Tuchel kind of had said, we have a referee who's judging, the severity of fouls, and that, that's taking away from the integrity of the game. And I kind of agree with him. But what I will say is, I don't know if you guys saw this going around on Twitter too, but people have been making a compilation of how Arsenal take their goal kicks, and every single goal kick in that clip, they do the same thing. The referee blows the whistle. Raya picks up the ball. He rolls it to Gabriel. Gabriel picks up the ball himself, puts it down, and then passes it right to Raya. I think it's the stupidest thing in modern football, personally. Yeah. It absolutely kills me every time I see these teams trying to implement this little 4 or 5 players standing in their own box for a goal kick, but that's a whole other conversation. I'm completely on Tuchel's side. I think they have a lot of merit in their argument I think they should have been awarded a penalty.
Yeah, I have to agree too. I think it's actually kind of crazy that nobody was really talking about it at all. I know I was listening to TalkSport after the games, and it was hilarious. I mean, they were all talking about Saka getting taken down as the controversial call in the game, and then almost immediately after Tuchel's press conference was over, it was like TalkSport breaking news. There's actually a real penalty miss in this game, and they were going crazy about it. And I don't know. I think the fact that nobody really...
It seemed like the only people in the stadium that noticed it was the Bayern players and staff. Obviously,
Kane specifically, I think was he was the first one that put his hand up and was like, "That's a handball." But I think the fact that nobody really paid attention to that outside of it shows you how almost insignificant it was, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it is a handball. Yes, it breaks the rules, but I'm almost not angry with the referee's decision at the same time.
Okay. Right. Yeah. I think for me, I mean, it's clear as day that what that is it's a penalty. It's a handball. Yeah. He kicked. It was in play at that point.
Right. And by law, it is breaking the law. Right.
Right. But I mean, I talked about this in the last podcast. When referees use their discretion to keep the game going, like I talked about it last time in the Benfica Sport thing, where it's probably 2 red cards, but decided to leave the players in the pitch. They were borderline and let the game be decided on the pitch, and I agree with that. So I do think it was definitely, again, the occasion getting to the players, because when you see it, the ball is always rolled by Raya in his hand. This time he decides he's going to kick it out, and they continue to do the same routine. So definitely a complete lapse of judgment. But when that happened, if I remember correctly, no Bayern players are running after the ball to try to press it, and as if the ball was
Yeah.
in play. They just notice
Right.
that it was touched again, and they run towards the ref. So they're not even trying to play the ball. So I like it as a no call. Let the game be played out. Yes, we expect better of these players, but yeah, we don't want a circus show of stuff like that.
Yeah, well, there you have it. That's our take on the calls. Comment down below what you thought. If should Arsenal have had a penalty? Should Bayern have had a penalty? Maybe it'll play itself out in the second leg. But we'll move to Madrid, which I think this game was the pick of the week. Obviously, it was Real Madrid 3, Manchester City 3. It always seems to be a thriller when these teams clash. It's becoming they're becoming kind of a modern day Champions League rivalry, in my opinion. But there were some brilliant goals in this game, some absolute, pieces of genius, all kicking off. I missed the first goal, to be honest, trying to get the game on. Bernardo Silva's caught Lunin off his line to make it 1-0. And you could have blinked and missed the two Madrid goals that they grabbed right after that. 2 goals in 2 minutes. There was so much to unpack in this game. I think there's too much to talk about football-wise, but what were your takeaways from this game, guys?
Well, yeah, it was definitely incredibly difficult to keep up with, especially I had the UCL multicast on Paramount Plus, so I was watching both games at the same time, and I felt like I needed an oxygen tank after the first 15 minutes. It was madness. I could not keep up with what was happening at all. But yeah, it was genius from Bernardo Silva. I felt like I don't think you can put really too much blame on Lunin because he's just not expecting it, you know. And by the time he reacts to get there, it's just too late. You know what I mean? So I thought it was more brilliance on Bernardo Silva than a lapse in judgment by Lunin. And then after Real Madrid scored their 2 goals rather quickly, it kind of felt like deja vu from the last time these two teams had played each other. I was like, oh my god, it's happening all over again. And what a spectacle this game was. It was end to end from 90 minutes. It was fantastic. It was honestly one of the most entertaining games I've watched in a very, very long time. And I'm glad you talked about the quality too, because I think like this match just shows like the levels of the Champions League compared to everything else. The technical ability of some of these players in this game that was on display was, I was speechless at times. Foden's goal was unbelievable. Valverde hit that ball so hard. I'm still trying to comprehend how he even was managed to do that. It was unbelievable. And like I said in the last game, I think a draw is a perfectly fair result. I thought. Yeah, City did their thing and dominated possession and did what they were always going to do, but Real Madrid's game plan did not deserve to come away with nothing. I thought they were so effective in what they were able to do with so little of the ball and to be so dangerous on the counterattack. We know how fragile Man City have been throughout this whole season. And I feel like a broken record saying it because it's after every City game they concede a stupid goal, and I felt like they conceded two. Two of the 3 goals were pretty stupid to concede, in my opinion. But yeah, I think it was a fair result to finish 3-3 overall.
Yeah, I personally think your goalkeeper bias is showing a bit. You definitely have to expect some sort of shot in every scenario on a free kick like that.
Not from that angle and from there.
He was fully caught out. But by not expecting it, you cheat towards the cross and then you leave it wide open. So that's pretty much what happened. And he got a hand to it, and it just was not strong. So I think it was poor from Lunin. But like you guys said in the game, worthy of the final for sure. End to end, it was funny because neither team really played the way they wanted to play. I don't think. I think they were both a bit rushed. They didn't get to play what they normally do. But just like you guys said, fantastic quality on both sides. And now that you mention it with the defense. As much as this 3 at the back works for them in attack, I think it's really killing them when they're defending because not having fullbacks just takes out a whole dynamic in defending, and I think you get players kind of in positions they're not comfortable with, and maybe not thinking they're supposed to be responsible for something. And yeah, I think their method of defense is by just keeping the ball. If you have the ball, that they can't hurt you. But when you go up against a team with the quality of Real Madrid, and especially the quality on the counter, they're just going to get exposed. And I think that's pretty much what happened here this week.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that about the fullbacks. I think Real Madrid really showed their ability to be efficient.
Mhm.
I think that's what's so dangerous about this Madrid team. And I mean, it's easy when you have Vinicius and Rodrigo just flying by everybody on planet Earth. I think they might be two of the fastest guys right now alive. But all three goals that Madrid scored come from wide areas. I mean, I know the Camavinga one doesn't really look like it, but the ball is worked down the outside. He cuts inside, and it's okay. It's deflected off Ruben Diaz, but the Rodrigo goals against the run of play, he's burned. I think it was
Akanji.
Akanji, right? I mean, he's not a natural fullback, and when you're playing him out wide, sometimes he can get exposed. And even the third goal, Valverde, I mean, it's a cross from front post to back post. Valverde, relatively unmarked. He has all this time in the world to hit the ball as well as he did. So yeah, you raise a good point. And to be honest, as much as there were players that had really peak performances, I thought there were some like really bad ones in this game. Holland was terrible, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I didn't even think Real
Two games
Madrid
in a row.
defend. I mean, I don't even think Holland. I mean, I don't really think Real Madrid defended that well. But I mean, has anybody seen Holland? Did he play? I don't even know. I mean, I'm not even sure he registered a shot, and maybe it's harsh. I know, you know, after the Arsenal City game, Roy Keane was kind of saying that Holland, he likened him to a League Two player with his build-up play, but maybe there's a little blueprint to beat Man City these days, or at least to silence Holland. And I think if you can do that, you have every chance to win the game. So there's a lot left to unfold in this game. I have absolutely no clue what's going to happen in the second leg at the Etihad. I wish I could pick a favorite, but if nobody has any other takeaways, I would like to debate what the best goal was. I know I was
Mm.
waxing lyrical about Phil Foden. I think he's my favorite player in world football right now. I think he's having such a great season. It's the season of his life. And I've been fending off people trying to say that he's not as good as Bukayo Saka and not as good as Cole Palmer. So if you're listening to this, you're an idiot. But I thought Foden's goal was unbelievable. He stuck it right in the top corner, and he had a pretty quiet first half. And I think that showed his level. That despite not really being a standout player on the night, he can pull something out of his hat and grab you a goal. So, I mean, I thought Foden scored the best goal. What do you guys think?
I think Foden's goal was very good, but I don't think it was as good as Valverde's. Honestly, I
Yeah.
that was this is such a missile, dude, and he hit that on the ground too into the bottom corner. You really don't see a lot of shots struck that hard and kept low like that, and I think that really shows you how technically gifted Valverde is. I think he's becoming renowned, and it's becoming his trademark now. Some of these absolute piss missiles he hits into the back of the net.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably 4 goals you could put up there as best of the game, which is crazy. But yeah, I'll give a shout to Guardiola because he's just not expected to do anything like that. I think that's something you expect Foden to do. That's something you expect Valverde to do. He's done it many times already. But Guardiola's goal was pretty crazy. But if I'm going to pick one of your two to kind of break a tie, I'm going with Foden.
Let's go.
Really? See,
Mhm.
I wanted to give Guardiola his props because it's pretty awesome to see a defender score a goal like that. But it's so
His
clear to
first
me
Manchester City goal, too.
he doesn't mean to take that touch. It's a bad touch, and it's on his swinger, bro. He's like swinging for the fences with that shot. I don't think there's any right in his mind that he thinks he's gonna bend that into the corner like he did.
I'm sure. If you don't believe in it, why take the shots? He definitely had some sort of belief.
If you don't shoot, you don't score, right?
It's
Right.
true, but I don't know. I can't imagine he meant that completely.
But yeah, it was great. And I think after Tuesday, we were all kind of worried that it was going to be a snooze fest on Wednesday, but it really wasn't. I mean, we'll stay in Madrid. We had Atletico Madrid playing host to Dortmund, and I thought the tie was over after 30 minutes. The way Dortmund came out and defended, they looked scared, nervous, some uncharacteristic bad mistakes. Kerbal was at fault, and Madsen as well. Atletico scored 2 relatively easy goals, in my opinion, but Dortmund responded well. They grabbed the late goal. Maybe they'll have a chance in the second half, but I can't say I watched this game too closely. Did you guys have any takeaways from this one?
I actually did watch this game pretty closely, and I know if you look at the scorelines of the 4 games, your eyes would definitely not be drawn to this game at all. But I was really fascinated by the fact that Atletico Madrid played the most un-Atletico Madrid style of play I've ever seen them play for the first 30 minutes of this game. They were so on the front foot. They were so attacking. And, I heard a very interesting stat, too, today about Atletico Madrid this season, but they are like ninth in La Liga in clean sheets. And I think that goes to show you that they've had to change their way of playing completely. They're not that lockdown defensive team that we've known them to become under Simeone, and they didn't play like that at all for a very large majority of this game. And I think it was actually really impressive of Dortmund as well to grow into this game and take control. And they really, really needed that goal. I thought it was awesome to see Haller of all people as well. He's had such a good year so far in 2024,
Right.
and to see him score in the quarterfinal of the Champions League was awesome. But it's a huge goal for them because I think that they have every right to go back to Dortmund and get a result because Atletico Madrid have been awful away from home in Spain and in Europe this season.
Yeah, like you said, I think Atletico have really been pretty poor defensively, and Obach's kind of stolen some results for them for sure this season. And I think definitely an odd scenario for them to play well going forward. But then they go ahead and blow it at the end anyways. And I think Dortmund will definitely feel very glad to leave out of here going 2-1 with how poorly they started. And now coming back home with a 1-goal deficit, I definitely think they would back themselves to go ahead and get something done there. So, yeah, I think even though there was a result in this one being 2-1, I think it's still just as wide open as the other ones from the day prior that ended in draws.
Yeah, well said. And I think the result was pretty expected. I know the stat that was going around after the game as well is I think Atletico was something like 17 out of 18 games unbeaten at home in Champions League knockout stage games, which is unbelievable. I mean, obviously Atletico Madrid and especially Simeone, they're no strangers to the Champions League. I think if they didn't come up against two of the best Real Madrid teams we've ever seen, they might have hoisted a Champions League themselves a couple years ago. And I mean, the blueprint maybe is not as there as it was. Gianluca brings up a good point with, they've been kind of a liability defensively this season, but they're still getting results at home when they need to. So we'll see what's left in the second leg in that one away to Dortmund. And finally, we'll go to France. We'll take a little flight to Paris, where we saw PSG losing at home 2-3 to Barcelona, a result that I'm not surprised by at all. I wish I was here the last podcast to give a prediction, but I'm going to be honest. I was pretty certain Barcelona were going to win this game. I think the few times I've watched Barcelona play in the Champions League, they look super inspired, a lot more inspired than in La Liga. I think their form in Europe has been night and day difference to the league. I think they're really fighting for Xavi, and when you have a coach at the helm like Xavi with experience as he is, I think it's easy to buy in and believe. They got a performance from Rafinha, who really hasn't done anything in Europe at all, but 2 goals to help Barca win away. I think he was an unexpected goal scorer for me, but I can't say I was too surprised by the result. I don't know what you guys think, but I just don't think this PSG team is as strong as people think.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think it was absolutely absurd that Rafinha all of a sudden remembered to play football on this night of all nights. Because, like you said, he really hasn't done anything in Europe, and he really hasn't done anything at all in his Barcelona career since he's gone over there. I have to say, though, I was kind of impressed with how well PSG were able to play as a team. I think we've known them to be kind of like that Hollywood. They had Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe, and it was just like a hodgepodge of superstars.
Right.
And now it's just Mbappe, and I think from what I've seen from PSG this season, they're kind of really preparing for life without him, and that was very apparent to me in this game. I mean, he was kind of non-existent, like we said about Haaland in the last game. Mbappe really didn't threaten Barcelona much. I thought Kubarsi marshaled them pretty well. I mean, they still concede 2 goals, but overall, I thought defensively Barcelona were kind of pretty good, which has not been the story for them this season. And Xavi, actually, I was very impressed with his ability to manage the game. I thought he got his substitutions spot on. I mean, it's pretty easy to say. Pedri comes on and pretty much instantly gives an assist. Christensen scored with his first touch. But I thought his substitutions, even after they came on and made those impacts, they still impacted the game well and had a real telling impact on PSG's midfield. And they were able to dominate and kind of take control of the last 20 to 15 minutes of the game. And that was what made the difference, in my opinion, for Barcelona.
Yeah, I mean, Barca looked more like Barcelona today, and I think that really hasn't been the case too many. More recently than at the beginning of the season. But I mean, I'll preface this by saying I really don't like Barcelona as a club. I'm not a fan of Barcelona, but how on earth they drove Xavi out of this club
It's a little
is
sad.
beyond me, because I
Yeah.
think it's pretty apparent that their squad is not up to par with previous squads. I mean, certainly nowhere near that 2010 era Barcelona that was the best in the world. But to have somebody, I mean, we've said this countless times, who's as Barcelona as they come. If you think of Barcelona, you probably think of Pep, Xavi, and Messi as the most Barcelona people.
Right.
And to force him out because of a couple of poor results, because of injuries and stuff, and more probably just frustration with the club in general, with the money situation, it is ridiculous, because I think he's proven again that he's a fantastic manager and he's the right man to lead Barca. And it's a shame that they've driven him out to the point where he doesn't even want to come back next year because of all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, like you guys said, more on this game, he set up that team well. They played very well. Barca looked very mature beyond his years, for sure in that game. But on the PSG side, yeah, not much in that team at all. I think they're still relying on Marquinhos to kind of put in world class performances, which are going to run out fairly quickly. And there's really no real midfield. I think you had a good thing going with Verratti and Vitinha, as weird as it worked, but with him gone, there's no real replacement. And it's really just Vitinha on his own, who I thought looked fantastic and is very well, making a great case for him to be a starter come the Euros for Portugal, even given their talent there. And then Nuno Mendes, I think, was unbelievable and proved if he can stay healthy, he's one of, if not the best left back in the world. He looked phenomenal. But yeah, not enough.
I'm glad you brought up the PSG midfield too, because I think the name on the team sheet that everybody was looking for and was hoping to play was Zaire Emery, and he came off the bench in the 61st minute. And Luis Enrique was asked after the game why he didn't play, and it was a quick answer, and basically all he said was, "I watch every training game," or he was like, "I watch every training session." So there's question marks in the PSG camp. I know there's been some scuffles between Kang and Lee and some other players, and I'm sure Mbappe is not always the easiest guy to handle. So maybe there's some turmoil in the PSG locker room, because I think in the past, the way this game played out, PSG should have saw off the game. I mean, Barcelona, I know they went up 1-0, but they kind of got hit by a sucker punch with PSG coming out of the second half. I thought I was pretty upset with the way Barca came out. I think they gave up 2 goals relatively easily. But I think like you said, it's a shame that Xavi's being forced out, because you can see the mindset that he's instilled in this team. I think a couple seasons ago, this Barca team would have went on to lose 3-4-1 in this game. I don't think they would have rebounded at all. So I agree. It is kind of a shame that Xavi's being forced out, but I think it just goes to show how kind of fragile PSG are. Even though they took the lead, I wasn't really too sure that they were going to keep it, because they got the goals in a flash. I mean, Dembele, the ball flies off his foot into the net. He celebrated. A lot of people are kind of interested in how the Barcelona fans are going to receive him next week. Hopefully it's all in good fun. And I mean, Vitinha scored a wonderful goal too. I think he's somebody who's super underrated. Personally, I feel like I'm always texting the group chat every time I watch him play. I can't help but keep an eye on him. So it finished 2-3 on the night in favor of Barca. So we'll see. I mean, I thought Barca was going to win the tie at home. I wasn't really sure that they'd have the lead going to Spain, but I think they have the strongest foothold right now of the 4 Champions League teams. It's easy to say that because they won away and they're going home, but I can't see PSG beating them.
They're technically still not home, not playing in Camp Nou, still playing in a rented home. Yeah, because Camp Nou is basically half demolished as they rebuild it for their new expansion. So they're playing in the Olympic Stadium or something like that, with like a quarter of the capacity. So we'll see if they can. Like that. We'll see if they can do that. But real quick with PSG, we don't talk about them much being in Liga, and not necessarily that popular of a league, and we have nothing at stake there. But I think they're a really special scenario for a club. I think similar to maybe like a Milan too, where when you have stars like that and that type of, like, a young player getting thrown into the spotlight at PSG can be very dangerous without the right team constructed around them. Because I think in the past, like
leaders,
in this situation, when you had players like Ibra, you had Di Maria, you had Thiago Silva, you had they had Buffon for a bit. They had very strong leaders throughout this team. So none of this crap would stand. But
Yeah.
now your leader is 23-year-old diva, for lack of a better term, with Mbappe in his situation. So there's no true leadership. I mean, you have Marquinhos, but Marquinhos doesn't have proven success like the rest of those guys. So I think the way this squad is constructed and the way salaries are thrown out with PSG, it just spells disaster without real leadership there. And I think this is just prime example of that. And I think them putting all their eggs in one basket with Mbappe as kind of their only solution. I think is very poor, for lack of a better term. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think it's like, I mean, I can't imagine how, like, for Luis Enrique to manage that team, it must be so difficult because he knows, your best player is leaving. You know what I mean? So how do you instill a tactic in this team when he's going to have to change everything next year,
Right.
And
If he even stays as coach, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And like there could be so much changeover in this team, and I think the leadership is a very, very good point too, because Warren Zaire-Emery seems like the player that all these PSG fans are putting their eggs in his basket now.
Yep.
Now that Mbappe is kind of the villain, so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he develops and to see how much pressure's on his shoulders, because that could make or break his career.
Mm.
Yeah, certainly a lot more to play out for the individuals. And in this tie, do we want to do some predictions? I mean, I can rattle off the four teams that I think are going to go through. I have Bayern, Man City, Atletico Madrid, and I think Barcelona are going to get it done as well. Do you guys agree, disagree? What do we think?
For me, I think it would be very pleasantly surprising if Arsenal could get a result at the Allianz. So I'm going to stick with you on Bayern with that one. I think Real Madrid have the quality to get it done, and I think Man City's got a lot of questions to answer defensively and about bringing Haaland into the game in the second leg if they're going to be able to get through that tie. So I'm going to go with Real Madrid for that game. I think Dortmund can get the result against Atletico Madrid. I think they're so tough to beat at home. And like I said before, I think Atletico Madrid's frailties away from home are going to be what undoes them in this tie. I think it's that simple, really. So I'll go with Dortmund for that game, and I agree. I think Barcelona see this one out pretty easily. I think they're in the most comfortable position of the four.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch it up for the first one. I think Arsenal go through. I don't see them losing unless something crazy happens in the league and they lose a bunch of confidence. I don't see them going there and losing, because I think their biggest nervy moment would have been playing in front of their own fans and not getting their asses kicked. So I think they kind of have that confidence now to go there and get a result. I'm gonna go Madrid for against City. I think they get the result at City, because City don't necessarily have really much of any sort of home presence. So not that they really needed it away, but I still back Real Madrid. I'll back Dortmund at home too to turn it around, and then I think Barcelona probably cruise at home as well.
All right, well, there you have it. Comment down below who you guys think will progress after the second legs are done in this quarterfinal stage. But with that being wrapped up, we'll move to the Europa League, and I guess we'll start in the game most important, I think, to this podcast, which was my AC Milan playing close to my brother Gianluca's Roma, where one of us was on the better side of the result than the other. I'll break down briefly what happened in the game, and then I'll give the floor to you, Gianluca. But I think for me, it was a lot of Milan just failing to cash in on all their possession, and I know possession doesn't win games, and I think we failed to really create anything too dangerous, and Roma cashed in on really the only chance they had. I thought this was a very Jose Mourinho-esque performance from Daniele De Rossi's men. That's all I could really seem to think about when I watched. But talk to me from a Roma perspective. Did you think that they particularly played well? Do you think you deserved the win on the night? What were your thoughts?
I think we executed our game plan brilliantly. That's what I think. I don't think we necessarily played well. or outstanding. We definitely did not create anything going forward. And like you said, I think if we were going to score in this game, it kind of felt like to me it was always going to be from a set piece. I felt like it was always going to be difficult for us to create something from open play. With that being said, though, I I have to give DeRossi a lot of credit again, man. Like his tactics are spot on, and the thing that's most impressive to me is we're doing this with a back four now, and I don't think any Roma fan would have believed that under Jose Mourinho that we could play anything but a back three, and for us to be so sound defensively, like you said, Milan never really created anything too dangerous. They forced a couple decent saves from Svilar, but everything was coming from distance. Nothing was up close. Other than that one chance Giroud had, which I literally laughed out loud when he missed. It was terrible, but I think overall we deserved to come away with a win. I think it would have been. Maybe this is my bias, but I think it would have been hard done on us if we ended up drawing. Like if that penalty had been given at the end on that phantom handball on Tammy, I would have been really, really upset to throw the result like that.
Yeah. Well, you can go, Jay. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I didn't catch too much of this one. I was more invested in the Benfica game.
Of course. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. Even from pieces I saw, I still thought Milan probably should have thought they could have came away with a better result, at least a draw. I think they would have been capable of. But yeah, probably a bit disappointing. I don't think Leao looked fantastic when I watched him. I think
he was pulled.
Yeah, we've kind of hyping him up that he finally found some really good form and has been unplayable, and I think he kind of hit a wall right there. So we'll see if that fixes itself. Selfishly hope it does. But yeah, regardless, I think a 1-goal result, it definitely does not decide anything in this tie.
No, I agree. I still feel really good, to be honest, about the game. I liked a lot of what Milan did. It was a little, I don't know, I felt a little let down that, on a night of this importance, that this was the night where we didn't really have our shooting boots. But I think you said it well, Gianluca. I think the only aspect of football that Roma beat Milan in is aerially, and I don't want to say physical dominance because I think shoulder to shoulder we have characters that match up well with Roma's team, but I mean I don't have a ton of confidence in guys like Thiaw and Gabbia in the air, and I don't know, the corner was just.
And I have all the confidence in the world in guys like Smalling and Mancini.
Yeah, and even Lukaku is such a demanding presence. So I kind of knew that Roma were only ever going to score off a set piece, and I think that speaks volumes about what squad is a lot better, in my opinion. Maybe it's biased, but I think the beautiful thing in sport is, the best team doesn't always win, and I think Roma took full advantage of getting a goal in the first half. It was a goal that I think kind of shot Milan's confidence. I think at home they would have expected to score the first goal. I certainly would have expected them to score the first goal, and historically speaking, with these Milan-Roma head-to-heads, I mean, it's the first time Roma have won in Milan in 7 years. It's the first time they've beaten Milan in all competitions in 5 years, so this is a big result for Roma in their confidence. And yeah, I mean, the way Roma have been defending under De Rossi, I'm not entirely confident that we're going to go there and score multiple goals. So I don't know. I think we're still a much better side than Roma, and I expect us to win, but I'm questioning how, especially if, guys like Leao and Giroud are going to be as tame as they were. I mean, it's easy to point the finger at Giroud. He missed I definitely would have scored. I think the only reason he misses is it's on his weak foot, and he's never been too good with his right foot, but Chukwueze couldn't have set him up any better. But I did like the balls that Pioli showed to pull off Pulisic and Leao and sub them. I think times in the past he would have just kept hammering who was on the field and not really made a change. So I actually kind of like that. He kind of dragged Leao off. I mean, Leao didn't look happy at all. I already saw a clip of Leao walking down the tunnel and kind of making a comment to a reporter. So you could tell it was a frustrating night for Leao in Milan as a whole.
I think that Leao and Teo being so non-existent though was because of how effective El Shaarawy and Zeki Celik were down the right side. I thought El Shaarawy's tracking back was superb. I mean, you really don't see a lot of players that have that ability to stay with Leao or with Teo and Leao. And Zeki Celik, I don't know where this is coming from. He looks like Prime Kafu all of a sudden.
He had a couple awesome standing tackles on Leao too. Times where I was waiting for a trademark step over and go where Leao knocks the ball past a fullback and leaves him for dust. But no, I agree. I mean, I have to give Roma some credit. I mean, even though Milan had the possession, I mean, like I said, they didn't really threaten Roma too much. So it is what it is. You bring up the handball. I think it was a handball. To be honest, I hate to say that. I think it should have been called. It's a modern day handball, but it is what it is. I mean, you've seen it be given all the time. And the only other thing is, I know a lot of people are making a stink about this Lukaku offsides and the build up to the corner kick that leads to the goal. Look, I mean, we're at halftime of this first leg. I think everything will work itself out. I'm always going to back Milan to go through, but it was just interesting that people are kind of harping on those decisions. Like I don't even think Milan deserved a penalty or a goal at all in the game, to be honest.
And I'm going to be quite honest with you. When I saw the penalty, I was sick to my stomach. I was so sick. I was like, that is going to be so like us to concede a penalty in that fashion. When I saw the replay, I was like, they're going to give it. There's no way. And boy, was I relieved when it came up, no penalty on the screen. Oh my God, I could not believe it.
Yeah, I bet. Oh, I had a pretty opposite reaction, but hopefully my belief that the better team will prevail will play itself out, because I do think we're far better than this Roma side. So we'll see a lot left to play. We'll move to Germany now, where the better team did win, by all accounts. Leverkusen moved to 42 games unbeaten. It was a 2-0 win over West Ham, who I think were okay, but I mean, they were conceding chances all over the field pretty much for the whole game. I think it was only a matter of time until West Ham's defense kind of crumbled and fell through. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I think it was the most David Moyes West Ham performance I've ever seen in my life. It looked like they were set up to try and give up as little as they possibly could and get out of there by conceding as little as they could. And I mean, you give up 33 shots, you're gonna concede. There's no way in hell you're not gonna concede a goal. And I felt like it was only a matter of time, like you said. I do think it was very, very nice to see Victor Boniface get on the score sheet. It's his first goal since December 20th, which is the game before the winter break, which is just unbelievable. I know he got hurt at AFCON and really hasn't played at all. I think it's only his second or third game back off the bench. So yeah, very nice to see him get back on the score sheet, because he was someone that was absolutely on fire in the first half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, in the Europa League, this is probably Leverkusen's toughest test. I mean, they really haven't faced too many fantastic teams. Not to say that West Ham are world beaters, but they're a good team, and they've played well in Europe, specifically this year. So they played very well, and they made them look average at best. They played very well, but again, late goals is what gets them through. They basically pretend the beginning of the game doesn't matter, and then just go all out at the end. Which, hey, it served them well, but we'll see how well that really will last. But yeah, just more to add to this impressive season that Leverkusen have had. Continue to be unbeaten in all competitive competitions.
I completely agree. I think the disheartening thing from a West Ham perspective is, I did only watch the highlights, but it looked like they conceded two of the more easy chances to defend. I mean, the Hoffman goal, it's not like they were undone. I mean, the ball kind of falls to him, and it squeaks in through legs. And, I mean, the Boniface goal, I'm somebody that believes that 95% of crosses and headers should never go in, because I just refuse to believe that forwards should be that open in the box and rise above defenders. But that's just me coming from a defensive mindset. But yeah, it's 2-0 to Leverkusen. I think West Ham have a very deep hole to dig themselves out of at home. I mean, if no one has anything else to say about that one, we'll move to Jason's Benfica, who I kind of made fun of, saying that they were the team that everybody would have wanted to draw in this quarterfinal stage of the Europa League. But they're 2-1 victors on the night over Francis Marseille. What did you think of the game, Jade?
I mean, you would think 2-1, we'd be happy with it, but the fans booed the team off the pitch, so which is kind of crazy. But if you watch the game, then you know why. I think it's very evident that this Marseille team is probably a shell of themselves. I think that they're dealing with a few injuries, but even regardless, I think we'd still back ourselves to win the game. but I think we easily could have went up 3-4-0, and we should have gone to win this game in that manner. However, Schmidt again, the definition of insanity is trying the same thing and over and over again and expecting a different result. And again, same lineup, same substitution pattern of basically none. And I think everybody, players and fans included, are getting very annoyed with it. I think it was very evident that the two golden boys, in his eyes, Rafa and Di Maria, were dead after 60 minutes because Di Maria has played the most minutes he's played in probably 6 or 7 seasons this year, and he's obviously not getting any younger. So I think that the squad management has been horrible, to say the least. I think there's videos of the subs that are just sitting there, not even warming up. They're just watching the game because they know they're not getting subbed in. So there's definitely questions to be asked. I think they were definitely saved a few times by Florentino Luis, who I think was benched in the middle of the season for no reason, and has basically proven that he needs to be in this team to have success. I think Antonio Silva had the worst game of his professional career, and that's including that stupid red card he got earlier this year in the Champions League. So, yeah, up 2-1, but yeah, I don't think anybody is definitely confident or happy with this result, because I think this should have been a very comfortable win, and it really isn't.
You know, I actually thought it was really interesting when you said that the Benfica fans booed their own after winning 2-1 at home, and I'm sure you guys saw me just scroll on my phone really quickly to look at previous results, and I couldn't help but think back to last season. I believe it was Benfica-Inter in the quarterfinals, and if I remember correctly, Benfica were the better team against Inter in the home leg, in the first leg. Similar scenario to this, and then they went away to Inter and drew 3-3, and I couldn't help. Last year, I remember thinking, you know, if Benfica could have grabbed a goal or two, it might have been a whole different second leg, and who knows? I mean, Inter were the eventual Champions League finalists. I mean, you would have had to face my Milan, and that would have been really fun. I think we would have been Champions League finalists if it had played out that way, personally. But yeah, it was just interesting that, you know, us fans, we don't forget anything, and I thought it was actually kind of cool that the fans showed a bit of balls to boo their own, because I think they know full well, just like last season, it could all happen again, where, you know, they'll look back to the first leg and rue some of their missed chances. So
yeah,
who knows? I mean, do you think? I mean, it seems like you think the booing was warranted. Do you think you would have booed if you were there too?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's 4 games in a row with the exact same lineup, and this is their second win. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you got to change something. Like, it's Pokchu, who we spent big money on, and I think is a very talented attacking player, has 9 minutes played in the last 4 games.
Yeah. Well, didn't he call the whole team out?
He did, but then he was brought back. He was applauded on the pitch when he came on. Like, everybody was over it. We're good to go. But, hey, I want to play this same team. I want to run them into the ground, and I'm going to let them play like shit because this is the team I chose. Like, we're not changing anything. Like, we've just subbed in a striker for Tankstead around the 70th minute, all 4 games, and then maybe one other sub. Di Maria should not be playing 90 minutes week in and week out, especially twice a week when we're playing. He just doesn't have the legs for it. And I think he's getting worse and worse in terms of kind of just laziness, a little bit of ball hogging, just not playing the way we've been playing and we've been successful at. And it's almost like Schmidt doesn't have the balls to stand up to these players in Di Maria and Rafa to just kind of bench them for poor performances. So I mean, I'm feel like I'm turning into like a miserable old Portuguese fan now, the way I am. But I like to think of myself as more level-headed and composed. But it's getting really tough to watch something where you know that a football coach is supposed to be tough. Like, these people are experienced guys. They know stuff that we don't know about. But it's like, I can't help but think that I could do a better job at managing this team at the moment. And it shouldn't be that way at all.
I mean, I want to speak from a Marseille perspective too, because you look at their last run of games. I mean, they've lost 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Now it's against some pretty good competition. I mean, it's Villarreal, Rennes, PSG, Lille, and now away to Benfica. But the one bright spot is Aubameyang. I mean, he's still scoring. So I agree. I mean, I think Benfica should be a little nervous having to go
For
to
sure.
France. Marseille don't play a game either on the weekend in between these two fixtures, so they should be rested and ready to go. So I'm going to be interested to see if they can beat Benfica by 2 goals. I mean, that's what it's going to take for them to go through. But finally, the final Europa League game we'll talk about. My favorite of the week, I think, to be honest, was Atalanta going away to Anfield and winning 3-0. It was Gasperini ball at his finest. I think he's one of the most disrespected, underrated, overlooked managers in European and world football. He's had some absolute class David and Goliath performances, and I think this was another jewel in his crown of those. For those who didn't see it, it was a Scamacca brace away at Anfield. Yet that is the same Gianluca Scamacca that West Ham paid big money for and ultimately flopped. It's hard to say that he's found his feet because he's had a very up and down season, but ever since Luciano Spalletti came out and criticized him in the Italian media and didn't pick him for the Azzurri squad, he's been kind of on fire. And on fire is absolutely what this Atalanta team was. It was inspired. It was brave. They kept their heads high, and they did not shy away from playing their football at all. They made Anfield look like a cemetery, to be honest. It was dead quiet for the majority of the game. I don't know if either of you guys caught this one, but what did you think? I'm interested to see what Gianluca has to say, us being big Serie A fans.
Yeah, I have to say, nothing makes me smile more than seeing the smaller Serie A teams, and honestly, any Serie A team get written off by all media across the world, and then go and absolutely smash a big English club like that. Nothing makes me smile more than that. And I almost want to say I was expecting it. I was expecting Gasperini to put a team out there that was going to play to their best ability because that's what Gasperini does. And it's not the first time he's gone to Anfield and do that either. I mean, and I think 3-0 is not flattering at all, to be quite honest with you. I don't think Liverpool ever really threatened Atalanta at all. I don't think there was anything dangerous going forward. I think Darwin misses his usual couple of chances that he kicks more closer to the corner flag than he does towards the goal. But other than that, it was pretty much all Atalanta creating the better chances. I mean, even if you look at the stats, Atalanta blow them away and expected goals as well. So I think it's more than deserved for them to come away with an absolute smashing. And I mean, it's great for our coefficient too. I'm very interested to see how this is going to affect their coefficient with Germany, because if I remember correctly, I think they were level on coefficient going into this match week. So I'm very interested to see how that changes things.
Yeah, I mean, that's a couple games now that Liverpool just look passive, just not necessarily bad. This game too, I don't think they were even that bad. I think 3-0 from their performance is probably not a just result, but when you consider the way Atalanta was able to put things together and capitalize on their chances, then yeah, absolutely, they probably could have gotten more. But I think from a Liverpool's perspective, you're looking at that and thinking we shouldn't have gotten beat 3-0 at all, especially at home. And they did have a few chances. I think that Elliott chance that hit the crossbar was kind of ridiculous. If that would have went in. But yeah, it's weird. Like we were all talking about a quadruple being on for Klopp in his final season, and now it looks like he's dropped his chance at the Prem title. Looks like I don't see them overturning this when they go back to Italy. I think Atalanta will probably still score a goal at home and make it even tougher. So yeah, that will put him out of this one too. So tough end of the season for Liverpool for sure. But yeah, I think credit to Atalanta and Gasperini. It was a fantastic tactic and result.
Yeah, I was happy to see it. It is crazy. I mean, somebody who, like myself and my brother, we've been watching Serie A for, I mean, as long as I can remember. I mean, to see Atalanta's rise from Serie B to some of these results that they've pulled out in Europe is just absolutely amazing. And, you know, I mean, this is 6th place Atalanta. I mean, this is one of Atalanta's, worst seasons in the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Teams on paper.
Yeah, and I just think it's just crazy. I mean, what would media be saying if 6th place Premier League team went and smashed league leaders Inter away from home? I don't know. It just pisses me off sometimes, to be honest. But something I wanted to talk to you guys about. I didn't bring it up before because I wanted to get your raw and honest reactions. But I think the Premier League was kind of humbled this week. We saw all three. The three-headed monsters that are duking it out for the Premier League title: Arsenal, City, and Liverpool all failed to win. I mean, I don't really care whether they're at home or not at home and who was fit and who wasn't fit. I mean, the way that the Premier League's talked about in the regard that it's held. I mean, are we forgetting who Bayern Munich are? Are we forgetting who Real Madrid are? I mean, it's crazy to me that City and Arsenal are the two favorites to win the Champions League. I mean, it's easier for us to think differently because we're not super diehard Premier League
Right.
consumers and fans. I mean, I know I'm definitely not. I try to watch it every weekend, but I mean, I'm always going to think that the Serie A is right there in terms of quality. But what did you guys what do you guys think of that? I thought it was pretty telling that none of those three teams managed to win.
Yeah, I agree, and I think for me, when I watch the Premier League in comparison to the other leagues, there's way less. Like, there's not as much tactical like emphasis on the game, and there's not a lot as much organization. And I think that's always seems to be the undoing of these Premier League teams in Europe. They always seem to get outdone by a manager who is more tactically and organizationally sound than some of these Premier League managers. Like, if you look at some guys like Ancelotti and even some of the lesser known managers like Gasperini, they know how to set up a team to beat these Premier League teams. And I think that the Premier League is struggling with adjusting to playing in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree. I think it's a little harsh for City and Arsenal, considering they are going against giants in Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, and holding them to a draw. So on that perspective, no. But Liverpool should be embarrassed with themselves. You want to call yourselves like the guys, and you're coming from the big bad Premier League. Your title race, your all this stuff, and then you lose to sixth place in a league that you think is a farmers league. Like, yeah, you should be embarrassed. But that's just, again, some English ignorance that we have to deal with as football fans. But yeah, if we keep going, West Ham also lost, and their only win was Villa in the Conference League. So I mean, England really did not do well. Granted, they had two tough opponents, but there's probably they should have expected to get more than just a win in two draws if they want to be considered the best league in the world.
Mm. And only because I enjoy playing devil's advocate. I mean, I think the Arsenal result is glaring as well because, I mean, what we've heard all season is, Tuchel out, Tuchel this, he sucks, he doesn't know what he's doing, this is the worst Bayern team ever. I mean, you should have heard what some of the Arsenal fans were saying. I mean, they fully expected to turn up in this game and absolutely smash Bayern by multiple goals. And I just think I just think that says a lot about kind of the hyperbolic things that get said about the Premier League, and I don't know. Just something that I wanted to point out. So
yeah, but with that, I'll give a little bit of credit to Arteta because it seems like the squad did not share the same opinion as the fans in thinking that this was a pushover.
Yeah,
they were scared shitless. They respected him and they were ready to go. So so that's a tough thing to do, especially with a club like Arsenal who's so they're so polarizing the fans, like all the Wenger out stuff and getting everybody fired and stuff like that, and panicking when anything goes wrong. So definitely some credit to Arteta for that.
Yeah, and I definitely won't go as far as to say what some of the tweets are saying that I've seen. I mean, a lot of people were saying, take Manchester City out of the Premier League and what else do they really have? I think that's absolutely insane. I mean, I think the Premier League is undoubtedly the best league in the world by averages, but it is always cool for me to see in these European games where they have to face teams from different leagues and see different types of tactical setups, how they fare. And yeah, I mean, this Atalanta game was really one for the hipsters. I mean, honestly, seeing them win 3-0 made me not even really care as much about Milan losing to my brother's team, to be honest. I think it was such an important result for Italy, something that I definitely felt prideful in watching. So that was a cool one. Probably my favorite game of the week, to be honest. But with that being said, the Europa League, we do have the second legs to play. How do you guys feel about your respective teams? It's interesting that me and Gianluca play each other. I mean, I'm sure we're both going to think now that we're still favorites to progress. But, I mean, if I'm going to go through on the teams that I think are going to advance, I mean, I think it's going to be Milan, Leverkusen. I'll give you Benfica. I think they'll get it done. And I just really think Atalanta are going to do it as well. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, like you said, I think Roma are going to do it. Um, I just think we're so good at home, and especially with the support with the Rossi at the helm now, I think it's going to be very difficult for us to even concede. Honestly, I would be shocked if we don't have another clean sheet in this game, given how well we've been playing and how good Svilar has been. So I think because we came away with the 1-0 result in this leg, I think that kind of makes us slight favorites going into the second leg, especially being at home. I agree. Leverkusen should just cruise, even being away at the London Stadium. I don't think it'll be anything difficult for them at all. Um, Benfica Marseille. Would I
It's
be
tough.
surprised? Would I be surprised if
I would.
Benfica got knocked out? Absolutely not. However, I think the quality of Benfica should be more than enough to get them through, regardless of the fact that Marseille isn't the easiest place to play. And when you have a Aubameyang in your team, I think you always have a chance, especially being only at a 1 goal deficit. I do think Benfica should get the result. They definitely should get the result. And finally, I think Atalanta is going to cruise. I think this game is the way this first leg went is every excuse for Klopp to field a heavily rotated side in the second leg and just go all out for the Premier League title and just give up on the Europa League. In my opinion, I think that that's exactly what we're going to see next week in Bergamo.
Interesting.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm going to back Milan. That game just is screaming extra time and penalties to me.
I was
I'm
just gonna
seeing
say that when Gianluca
I'm
was
seeing a
talking too. I
1-0,
don't know
2-1.
why, dude.
Yeah, it's
Damn,
screaming extra time. It's going to be a tight one. That'll be a nail biter. Leverkusen, I'll still back Leverkusen, but West Ham has a chance to make a very famous European night if they're able to beat
yeah.
Leverkusen at home and get through. So I think it'll be a tasty affair. I won't write that game off yet, for sure, but I think I'll lean Leverkusen. Share the same opinions with Benfica. They absolutely should win this game comfortably, but they're going to make a mess of it in some way, and it won't be comfortable. That's screaming a draw there, too, where we're defending for our lives the last 20 minutes.
That was the game I was going to say if any of them would go to penalties.
Yeah. If that goes to penalty.
Dave's gonna have a
And
heart
then,
attack.
yeah, I think Liverpool probably surprise Atalanta and go up quick, but then Atalanta will kill it off with a goal, and I think they still win that game and go through.
Yeah, fair
Do you
enough.
agree with me? Do you agree with me that they're gonna rotate Liverpool, or you think they'll go for the Premier League
I
title?
actually don't. I think because it's Klopp's last season, I don't think they're gonna do that. I think he'll die on his own sword. To be
Yeah.
honest, but
Interesting.
anyway. With that being said, that's our take on this week's Europa League fixtures. Comment down below who you guys think we'll go through in the second leg. We gave you our opinion. We would love to hear yours as well. And with that, we'll go to the third of the European competitions, and that's Conference League, which I think in recent years has been pretty good ever since it's been implemented. I think it's been living up to expectations. There were some cool results in this one this week. We saw Olympiacos play host to Fenerbahce. Fenerbahce, who of course had a rested squad after not playing any members of their first 11 at the weekend in the Turkish Cup with the protests that they had going on. So I kind of was expecting Fenerbahce to go there, be rested, and get a result, at least a tie. But pretty cool to see Olympiacos win 3-2. I remember growing up seeing them. You know, they were in the Champions League group stages and they were kicking about. So it's cool to see them kind of reminding people again of who they are. Did anybody catch this one or see any highlights?
Yeah, I think this is kind of a game for the hipsters. Olympiacos versus Fenerbahce. It's such a
Yeah.
'90s football classic,
Right.
European Cup game. I have to say, I think it's if you're an Olympiacos fan, you have to be so disappointed with the way they close out that game. I mean, they're
Right.
up 3-0 after 60 minutes. You should be, even if you concede once, that's fine. But I mean, to give up 2 goals in the way they did, I think that that's going to make it really, really difficult to go to Fener, which we know is not at all an easy place to play, and how hostile it is in Turkey. So
Right.
I'm actually really looking forward to the second leg of this tie. I think it's going to be an all out war for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Fenerbahce definitely saved this tie because this looked like it was over pretty quickly. I'll shout out former Benfica man Chiquinho with the goal. A lot of weird amount of Portuguese league transfers went to Olympiacos this year, which is just funny. But yeah, it's definitely, I don't know how they almost blew a 3 goal lead, but like you said, uh, Fenerbahce definitely would be kicking themselves if they didn't bring this back in a playable game at home, because I think they'll definitely favor themselves to get it done at the return leg.
Yeah, I completely agree. And next, we'll look at Victoria Pilsen and Fiorentina. Actually, a pretty big result. For the Czech Republic as a whole, I mean, they're kind of right there in the coefficient themselves, the Czech Republic. So it's cool that Pilsen are kind of keeping them alive. But this is kind of an interesting result to me that Fiorentina weren't able to get anything from this game, albeit, I mean, Fiorentina are still in 3 competitions this year. They have the Coppa Italia. I mean, they're still fighting for Europe in the league, too, if you look at it from that regard. And I don't know, it looks like maybe the fixtures are kind of piling on for Vincenzo Italiano's men. I didn't see the game, but by the stats, it looks pretty boring. There was almost no expected goals for either side, so it remains to be seen. I'm not really sure what to expect from the second leg, personally, but
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think even over the weekend too, after the Coppa Italia game, they looked so exhausted to me.
yeah.
So I do think it's going to be. I think they couldn't have got a better result really to go there and draw 0-0, given the amount of games they've just been playing lately. This squad must be so exhausted. So I think the fact that they're going home is going to be a real welcome sign for them, and I hope they go and do something in the Europa League. Obviously, they just lost their well, I think he was the general manager, Joe Baroni. So
Yeah.
it would be nice to see Fiorentina go and win a trophy this season. Like you said, they're still competing in 3 competitions. They have the Coppa Italia still as well, so that would be very nice if they could go and win a trophy for sure.
And even last year, I mean, they did lose in the final to West Ham, so we'll see. Maybe there's unfinished business for them. But finally, we'll move to the only English team, like Jason said, that did get a win. It was Aston Villa. They got a nice goal from John McGinn. They beat out Lille, who I think, to be honest, this is more of an evenly matched game than people think. But what a big result for Villa. I think this is really the only bright spot left in Villa's season. Obviously, they were leading the Premier League for a little bit, and they looked destined to finish in the top 4. And I know around the halfway point in the season when we had our Christmas time predictions on how we thought the leagues would finish out across Europe, we kind of all pegged Villa to move down a couple places in the Premier League, which I think has happened in large part. Maybe it's the fixture congestion. I know they had some injuries, but a pretty bright spot in their season to get a win at home against Lille. Hopefully they go and get it done in the second leg, because I would like to see them have something to take away from this season. I think Emery certainly deserves it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's the thing that's most interesting to me about Aston Villa in this tournament really is the way these ties are going for the other English teams. It almost feels like if Aston Villa want any chance of being in the Champions League next season, they're going to have to be the ones that carry the English coefficient on their shoulders and get wins. And maybe they be the ones that, if they don't go and win this Conference League, maybe they do well enough to boost the coefficient and they end up qualifying for the Champions League by being 5th in the Premier League next season. I think that'd be absolutely incredible. And I think it's really interesting that that's something that they're going to have to be thinking about while they're playing in this game, which is kind of incredible. I don't think that's something that's ever really come into as a factor in any game before.
Yeah, I mean, funny you mentioned that. It's actually the same case for Lille. They sit right in the right outside the last Champions League place, and they're probably feeling the same way. But yeah, like you mentioned, it's a closer tie than most people will give it credit for. But yeah, very impressive for Villa to go ahead and do this, because they've kind of been in a little down period of their season, with a few more losses and drop points than they're used to since they started. So yeah, good recovery, and nice to see that Emery will get some more. I don't want to say recognition, but something more out of this season than just kind of blowing 3rd place in a Champions League spot.
Yeah, certainly. And then finally, we saw Club Bruges play hosts to PAOK. They were 1-0 victors on the night. Bruges, who, I mean, I don't know if anybody follows the Belgian league, but they haven't really been up to their standard either. I mean, if I asked you who you thought was leading the Belgian league, you'd probably be inclined to say Club Bruges, and other teams similar to Olympiacos, similar to Fenerbahce, who, they're not strangers to the Champions League, and sometimes they get out and make a little round of 16 appearance and get smashed, but sometimes they do well in the Champions League. So cool for them, and it could be a takeaway for their season as well, similar to a team like Villa and even Olympiacos. But I think that's exactly what the Conference League was here for. It's for these smaller teams to have European nights and get some cool results. So if there's no further analysis on that one, that wraps up the Conference League. And I wish I could do a little segment with all of us on who we think will progress, but I think it's pretty straightforward. For me, it's probably just Fenerbahce, Fiorentina, Villa, and Bruges. Yeah. Does anybody have anything that differs from that, or no?
No, I think I agree with you, to be honest.
Yeah, the only game that'll be up in the air would be the Olympiacos Fenerbahce, but I pretty much agree with the rest.
Yeah, it's too bad too. I kind of wish there was more days in the week for the Conference League games to be played on a different night, because I haven't watched any of the knockout stage games, and probably the only one I watch will be the final, to be honest. I'm just being 100% honest. But with that being said, that wraps up the football that was played. We'll get into our episode, the five-a-side. There's a lot of good performances this week in Europe, but I have a feeling I know Gianluca's goalkeeper is going to be, and I think he was on the winning side in a 1-0 game away to AC Milan. Am I right?
You are right. Only because I know you said there was a lot of great performances in Europe this week, but there were some fucking terrible goalkeeper performances in Europe this week.
Yeah, I know.
Miles Vilar is really the only one who kept a clean sheet and actually had something to do in that clean sheet. So I think he's an easy shout. He's the man of the match on FOTMob, which kind of surprised me. I don't know if I would pick him to be the man of the match. I probably would have picked Mancini personally, but yeah, I think it's an easy shout for Smilar. It's kind of crazy. I think since he's taken over Roma's job, he's either the goalkeeper of the week, or he's a nomination for the goalkeeper of the week just about every week now, which is just awesome. I mean, being a goalkeeper myself too, to see him step in and make that role his own it just makes me so happy, honestly.
Yeah, there was actually another goalkeeper name that I wanted to shine light on, only because I watched the game, but I thought Juan Musso was actually really good for Atalanta. I think he came out in timely spots to clear the ball. I know Liverpool, it seemed like as the game went on, they were just trying to hit long balls over the top. I know Gakpo had some success, but I was actually pretty impressed with the way Juan Musso played. I mean, he's been second favorite to Carnesecchi in Gasparini's team. He hasn't gotten too much playing time, so I thought it was cool to see Gasparini field Juan Musso and for him to keep a clean sheet. But yeah, I guess I agree, but we'll have to give it to Svilar, as much as I hate that he kept a clean sheet against Milan. But we'll move to defenders. There's some really good defender performances too. I actually was, I mean, I couldn't get enough of watching the Atalanta game. I mean, somebody that stands out to me was Jim City, somebody who's relatively unknown in European football. I guarantee any Premier League fan doesn't even know who that is. They probably don't even know he played today. But I thought he was unbelievable. But there were some defenders that popped up on score sheets. I know Gvardiol, I don't think he had a standout performance, but he scored a pretty vital goal. Yeah, Gianluca Mancini as well, true, to be fair. But, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I thought Jim City was the best defender I watched. But what do you guys think?
I know the game finishes 3-3, so it's hard to shout a defender, but I kind of want to shine a light on Tchouaméni, because I think it's actually really impressive that he's been able to slot into this center back role for Real Madrid and be so effective. He's playing so out of position. I mean, you can see it's even just by watching. I mean, I'm not a natural defender by any stretch of the imagination, but you can tell he doesn't look comfortable back there at all. But he's getting the job done pretty effectively. So I know he probably isn't going to get a spot in the team, but I wanted to give him a credit, because I was kind of impressed with him, to be honest, playing out of position as he has been for the last couple weeks now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the reasoning. I think Tchouaméni, but it's a bit biased because he's playing out of position. But I think it was a good performance nonetheless. Also, shout out Araujo. I thought he played pretty well in that game for Barcelona. Yeah. I mean, I think the Dembele goal still comes from his side, but I think he still did well overall. There was a few counters I saw him. He was able to come back and break up. So I think he played well that game too.
It's funny to me that you shouted out Tchouaméni, because the other defender that stood out to me in my mind was actually Rudiger. I thought Rudiger had a classic Rudiger, just a nuisance performance. And it was funny. It seems like Tchouaméni's kind of transforming himself into a mini version. I know I saw the clip of him having an arm around Haaland with his tongue out. Yeah. It was hilarious. But I'm going to be honest. I want to give it to Jim City. But if not, I think there's another Atalanta player that will get in the team. So can we give it to Rudiger? I would
I
like
like
that.
Rudiger. I like
I'll
Rudiger.
take it.
Fairs, yeah, type him in. Midfielder, I have a player that I would really like to be in this team. But I
Who
don't
do you
think he
got?
did enough apart from scoring a world class goal, which is Phil Foden. But he's the first name I'll throw out there. I think there were some really standout performances from midfielders in the Madrid City game. I think it's easy to pick someone from that because of how incredible the game was. I mean, you look at Valverde, you look at Foden, even Bernardo Silva, I thought had one of his better performances in a Manchester City kit. But were there any other players that stood out to you guys?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
shout out Vitinha. I think
There, yeah.
he also did very well, but I think I'd probably lean um, Foden or Bernardo a little bit over them too because I think they did both play very well that game.
I'm gonna pick none of those guys.
Oh boy.
Interesting.
I'm gonna pick Leon Goretzka because I thought he
I
absolutely took Declan Rice to school in that
yeah.
game. Declan Rice had no idea how to play midfield. All of a sudden, someone who people have been talking about as being the best Premier League midfielder this season, Goretzka showed him how to play midfield in that game. Absolutely, in every sense of the word. So I think he's my pick, honestly.
It's so funny because after I had rattled off the names, I said I forgot to say Goretzka, and it was funny. Maybe you read my mind or something, but um, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to Goretzka getting in the team. I thought he had a really quietly nice assist too for Gnabry's goal. He weighted the ball perfectly to give Gnabry a chance to get his foot on it after turning over the Arsenal mistake. So I'm not too opposed to having Goretzka be in. Do you want to make a case for anyone else, Jason?
No, I can be convinced with Goretzka. I do think he did play very well in that game, and I do think he was very important in Bayern's game plan, and I think he did it well.
Perfect. Let's stick him in. I think there's going to be a midfielder that slots into the flex spot eventually. But forward, I think we can keep the conversation short. I thought the most important performance was Skamaka. I think he scored two solid goals away to Anfield. He's kind of revitalized his career, to be honest, in a sense. It's going to be interesting to see what these last couple weeks have in store for him because I think he might actually play himself into the Azzurri team that goes to the Euros and maybe plays himself into the starting number 9 position as well for Spalletti's team. I would love to see Skamaka make it. I think he's such an unorthodox type of player, and just the calmness that he showed on the second goal was disgusting. I mean, it was a tough chance. Ball coming across his body, he just kind of opened up his hip and just slotted it into the corner and just kind of shrugged it off the Atalanta faithful. It was an unbelievable performance. Not even just the goals, but his hold up play. I thought he made Konate look pretty average, to be honest. I don't know how close you guys watched the game, but he had my favorite forward performance of the weekend. Whether or not it was the best, I'm not sure, but that's who I would like to see make it to the team.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yep, me too. I think it's hard to argue against him, really. Especially, it made me smile actually to see him go and do that at a Premier
Me
League
too.
team even more
Yeah.
than anywhere else.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to talk about him too much more, but he was a striker who I always hoped was going to stay in Italy. And when he made the move to the Premier League, I was pretty upset because he was actually somebody I really wanted to see in a Milan kit. And if not Milan, at a top team in Italy.
Mm.
So it's cool that he's found a home in Atalanta. And I mean, he's kind of reminded a lot of Premier League fans that he does have quality of play against those top teams. So good for Gianluca Scamacca. I think he's a pretty easy pick for forward. And finally, we'll go to our flex spot. I mean, there was some big performances and big games. I mean, I would love to throw maybe another Atalanta player in here as well. I know I was saying in the group chat, I thought Jim City was great. I know I said it in the podcast. I thought Darun was excellent playing in center back, an unnatural position for him. But across Europe, there really was some great performances. I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting to me that we don't have a Man City player
Yeah.
in this squad. So maybe we pick one of those. Who do you guys think should get in? Because I really thought Bernardo Silva was great. I think he had a lot on his shoulders to do creatively, especially with De Bruyne not being picked. That was kind of a shock to a lot
Yeah.
of spectators when they didn't see De Bruyne's name on the team sheet. But I think Bernardo Silva just kind of reminded everybody again of how good he is. I mean, he always seems to be scoring in these huge ties if it's not
Big game
Rodri.
player.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd be fine having Bernardo Silva stick in the team, but I'd love to hear a case for somebody else if you have it.
I'm gonna give you a hipster pick,
Oh,
Okay, base two.
but it is from this game still though. Just not
Yeah.
not a midfielder you would expect. I'm gonna shout Luka Modric because Real Madrid were getting absolutely bossed up until the 70th minute of this game. And then as soon as Modric comes on the field, he's the one that says, give me the ball and I will make things happen for this team. And that's exactly what he did. He brings Real Madrid right back into the game. He completely dictates the last 25 minutes of this game. So I think if there's any midfielder that was most influential on the game, it's him.
no, that's fair. But I think the sub is probably a little tough to kind of give that spot to. Because to be honest, I think there's probably 7 or 8 players in that game that probably could have been included in this that did something good enough to be shouted out. Like I think Vinicius ended up with 2 assists. He did very well that game too. But I do think I like that Bernardo pick because yeah, he does all the right things all the time. It's very rarely that he's able to actually shine and stand out. So yeah, I do like that Bernardo pick.
Yeah, I think he's the one in the City team that actually like has to sacrifice a lot in terms of not being able to show you all the time the full extent of his ability. Because when you think of the most creative players on City, you certainly think of De Bruyne first,
Right.
but you probably are inclined to think of Foden before you think of Bernardo Silva. So it was cool to see him score that goal and kind of announce himself again to football fans around the world. So
And I think
I'm fine with
he's
it.
definitely sacrificed since Foden's kind of come into that central role. He's kind of been pushed wide because there was a good point where Foden was essentially the left wing back in attack, and Bernardo Silva played in the middle, and they just kind of swapped that so that Foden can play central. So yeah, I do agree with that.
All right, perfect. So there you have it. There's our European five-a-side team for episode 25. We have Mile Svilar of Roma in goal, keeping a 1-0 clean sheet. Son of a bitch. We have Rudiger in defense for his antics, his tactics, and his ability to marshal Holland along with Tchouaméni. We have Goretzka, dominant midfield performance. Like Gianluca said, he did kind of school Rice in a couple aspects of the game. Skamaka going away, brace against Liverpool at Anfield in the forward spot. And finally, the brilliant Bernardo Silva for his moment of magic on the free kick away to Madrid. There's a lot left to play out in these second legs, a lot of big ties, a lot of stuff that's still undecided. Hopefully, my team and your team is on the end that makes it to the last stage or the next stage. But if no one else has any comments, thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok as well at Sons of Pitches. And without anything else, keep on being a son of a pitch. Take care.